All right, hello everybody. This is Coach S111. It is Thursday morning around 9 o'clock, and I have back Coach Baab here. How you doing, Coach?
Oh, doing great, Coach.
So our first podcast or whatever was a little rough, and this second one I did myself. It got a little bit better, but we're still kind of working things out, working out the flow. Technically, I owe wearing a Browns jersey because when we last spoke, when the Browns beat the Bengals, due to some work constraints for both of us here, I have got to go buy one yet. So we'll have Coach Bad back for sure one more time, and I promise I'll wear the Browns jersey when I get a chance with here, Coach Babb. So sorry about that. I didn't have time to get to the local Walmart.
It's all good. I'm sure it will occur, and it will be classic, and I
I
will enjoy every second of it.
I tried putting my Peyton Hillis jersey on, but it wouldn't fit. So there was not a whole lot of choices. So, all right, well, we're gonna make this one a little shorter, but I'm gonna stick with the last theory like I did myself. I'm coming into this without any preconceived notions, and this is kind of like a walkthrough of how my brain operates, how Coach Babb thinks. We don't have our set plan, our set game plan, what we're going to do. This is like we're starting to build our lineups. So one of the first things, obviously, is the matchup today. We have Jacksonville and Miami. Last I checked, the Vegas spread has it as a pick 'em, and I have my projections have Miami with basically point 0.6 underdog, or I'm sorry, Jackson with a point 0.6 underdog. So I have it as a pick 'em as well. Do you have any strong takes or leans on the particular game?
I mean, I think it will be a close game. Obviously, Gardner Minshew is really working some magic. I mean, the Jaguars are almost 2-0, so I would obviously lean Jaguars in the game. So if I were to, construct a game script, I would probably lean Jaguars over Dolphins in this matchup. But it will be a close game most likely.
Yeah, I kind of drink the Fitz magic once in a while. So in some strange way, I almost see Minshew as like a younger version of Fitzpatrick. I'm not really sold on him as a long-term good QB, but they are both kind of short, Caucasian, run around a little bit, take some chances. One has a mustache, one has a beard.
They're like my friend Baker Mayfield.
Well, I would probably take them both over Baker. At least they can make two reads. But nonetheless, he got the job done last week. All right, so I'm gonna put here before we get into the optimizer. I'm gonna go here and show my spreadsheet up on the screen. Last time Coach Babb couldn't see it, and that was my fault. Are you able to see it now?
Yes, I am able to see it now.
All right, perfect. So here are some of my ownership projections and overall projections. And as you see, green means possible injury. So when we're looking through this, we've already kind of talked about the quarterbacks. We can decide what we want to do with them later. I think like against Bengals and Browns, there were some certain targets that you knew were going to get the ball. The issue with this game here is outside of the quarterbacks who we know are going to throw and hand the ball off, there's a lot of muddledness to all the skill positions. And the one thing that I saw surprising, I'm pretty into sports and fantasy and play every slate every day, but if I did before this morning, I wouldn't have known this was out of the skill positions, Miles Gaskins is clearly the number one back in Miami. And, I haven't really played a whole lot of Miami players, so I just, kind of thought there was three backs going in there. But, if you look at Miami backs, you're here, and here, Howard and Brenda are only on the field a combined 36% of the time, and Gaskin is on almost twice as much as both of them. So, I don't know if the casual fan knows that, but that is Gaskin and James Robinson are the only skilled players, in the running back groups and outside of the number one receivers that really look like they're getting the lion's share here. So, you have any takes on the running backs? I mean, do you expect maybe a Brenda or a Howard to pop off and get more snaps, or do you think they're going to stick with riding Mike Gaskins a little bit?
Right. Well, I mean, all it takes is one touch and taking it to the house. I mean, Breida is really cheap on DraftKings. I believe it's $1,800. But Myles Gaskins for the Dolphins. I mean, the one thing I obviously like about him, I believe he had 8 targets last week. Catches passes as well. And then James Robinson over 100 yards last week. I mean, those would be those would be my clear-cut top plays. But obviously, when you're going into a showdown, you're going to have to try to identify that one sleeper guy who might get it. We were actually, our podcast Browns Bengals had a lot of accuracies, but my call on John Ross was completely inaccurate. So sometimes you miss them, sometimes you hit them. So you have to take a gamble sometimes. In Breida at that cheap, I mean, I think I would play him in some lineups, but primarily the top 2 guys.
So here's the thing: is when we get towards the end of this, I'm gonna show the optimizer, because really we do a good job with the optimizer, and we want people to sign up for it, use it. Play like the pros do, or play like the semi-pros do. But one of the things is with lineup construction, I cashed in all but one of my 50-50s and cash with John Ross at captain getting a 0. Okay, because I was able to afford in those lineups both Browns running backs, Burrow, Boyd, and somebody else. So the fact is, I control the majority of the Odell. So I controlled all the touchdowns and took a 0. Now, obviously, you wouldn't win the big $300,000 one like that, but there is some validity to like yesterday, I almost won with Hero at captain. Now, he's obviously a stud, but there are times where you can strike out at the captain and still win, depending on your build and your breakdown. Now, I did win in the $400 one that week, and it was a different build, but I definitely think that, in my opinion, tell me if I'm wrong, out of these folks, I could see playing Gaskin and captain and maybe Brenda in a utility spot. But I'm the only captains I would consider out of the groups are the guys that get touches. I don't know. To me, it's more likely for like a stiff wide receiver to catch an 80-yard than an 80-yard run, obviously. So I would only consider Brenda for a utility spot. What about you?
No, yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, I would definitely lean receiver in the captains, and similarly with that Browns Bengals matchup, I'm a smaller time player than Coach S, but I believe I either broke even or just won a little bit of money on that. But like I said, I played a lot of John Ross and really struck out. So yeah, I think you put a receiver in the captain, and I mean we've seen a lot of under the radar receivers in the first few weeks. Catch passes. And so yeah, that would be my lean as well.
So when we're doing this, like I said before, I'm not even coming in with any preconceived notions. So what I think that as you see, I'm going through my own process, and I don't know why these colors aren't changing. The spreadsheet's supposed to be programmed to change colors like it did the first times when I move or change the type of play. But I think I'm going to eliminate these folks here. If Patrick Laird gets a carry or two at the end of the game and burns me, oh well. And I think we've come up. I'm going to use the 2 main running backs. Either we don't know yet in the captain or a lot in the utility. But I think I'll at least sprinkle in Thompson, Brenda, and Howard is very touchdown dependent, but he does get goal line work. So I'm not gonna. He probably will be my least used because out of the 3 others, but. I think I'll sprinkle him in the utility, but definitely not at the captain for Howard.
No, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, we're loud and clear. And just for the people out there watching, I mean, this is, Coach S kind of got me into DFS, and this is kind of a lot of times how we go through the process. And, he's got me where I've cashed for, 50K, 25K, 15K. And, it's generally this process, and generally where I get stupid as Coach S tells me not to is I'll start playing a bunch of milli makers, which obviously you're going to need some luck in a milli maker. But, if you take your time to go through the process like that, this is the way we go about things. So.
All right, so now wide receivers, let's get it out of the way. I think DJ's going to play. He actually did didn't practice or was very limited. But listening to the coach, he said it's for precautionary reasons. So you have to watch it. But I would be surprised if he didn't play. So what I'm getting out of this here is a lot of you got Parker, you got DJ. Preston's the clear 2, and I think Cole has kind of become the de facto 2, over Westbrook, who hasn't even been active. The only other take I can take from this here is, it looks like Conley and Isaiah Ford are the 3s. I think the main thing, I think everyone kind of knew Conley would have a role, but if you look here at the highlight, Jakeem Grant has only played 13% of snaps last week after 34 the week before. And Isaiah Ford had played 60-some and then 70-some. So I think Isaiah Ford is taking over, and they've kind of, shown Grant the door. And then, just for reporting purposes, the rookie, I can't pronounce this, we'll call him, LS. He's been playing 60% of the snaps, but they're keeping him in the game plan, scripting him with 4 rushes and 4 or 5 targets. So I think we've got a lot of possible options that are good, but I think clarity's starting to come. I personally here at wide receiver would go with either the top 2 or value. I don't. Preston Williams to me is kind of no man's land. I guess depending on your build. And I don't know if the volume's there. For the rookie. I mean, he's playing snaps, but I may take some stabs, but I kind of like the top 2 dogs, Conley and Cole. And Ford. I'm not. I'll sprinkle them in, but I think my build, my initial gut, is to put both quarterbacks in, and play a lot of the top 2 running backs. Therefore, if I sprinkle in a top receiver, it's I'm gonna have to have some value because I've just jammed in the highest priced guys. So I think I personally may miss out on this 66, 68 receiver as much in my build. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, no, exactly. I think obviously Conley with the 7 targets last week. Sometimes you kind of have to try to get a feel for maybe if someone's emerging. And obviously with that many targets, even at 40% of the snaps, he may be somebody who's emerging. Additionally with rookies, especially with high draft picks. Obviously it's only week 3, but sometimes throughout the course of the season, they kind of get integrated in the game plan more and more. It would not surprise me to see. I know Chenault got 4 and 4, rushes and receptions. But I think he's going to keep having an increased, be increased in the game plan as the season goes along. Maybe that won't be this week, but I agree with you. I think the 2 quarterbacks are both going to put up numbers. I think you're going to want to play a lot of them. The top 2, right? Yeah. So we're exactly on the same page, and then just mix and match. But yeah, I think the bottom guys on that list. I don't know how likely it is, but like I said, we see under the radar guys catch touchdowns sometimes. Colin Johnson only 14% of the snaps, but all it takes is 1 touchdown, and Colin Johnson. You get Colin Johnson in the captain's seat with all the chalk, then you're in the race to hit big money. So yeah, that's like usual, we're a lot on the same page with that.
Yeah. So I actually like the rookie Shelnut or whatever. In best ball, I drafted him a lot, and even in those big dollar season long ones, I just if my build allows me to take him over Isaiah Ford some or Conley, I will. But I just doing the quick mental math. I think shoving in both quarterbacks, and Gaskins, and one of the top 2 receivers, I think it's going to lean me more towards these other guys. One of my possible strategies, without right now. Last time you were on this, I kind of came up with 4, and then you eliminated it to 2, and is. Play number 3, not a 33, my keyboard. Number 3 wide receiver, captain. 2 QBs, a running back. So to maybe play Cole and Conley some in the captain, and play both quarterbacks. That's 4, and then play a lot of Gaskins and rotate the last spot. I'm not saying that's what I'm going with, but remember, part of this podcast here is we're going to kind of go through the thought process as we go. So this is one of the strategies that I could see playing, and I think there's a lot of value there, because you could probably, I haven't added it, you could probably play one of the number 1 receivers, both quarterbacks, a running back, with affording it with one of these 2 guys and captains. So I'm gonna have a lot of it to these Jacksonville lower receivers, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to include Ford in there too, as your possible high play. All right, so now I'm gonna go through here. Tight ends, so there's one thing that surprised me, and we'll get to the optimizer, which is a great product here that we want everyone to use. This is really muddled, like I said before. Surprisingly, Mike Goliski, great play. I have him again in season-long best ball. He's only on the field 64% of the time, so he's making a lot of use of his targets. I don't know if, like, Darren Waller plays 85%, 90% of the snaps. Goliski has the same type of game potential. Maybe not quite as good, but if you're on the field 25% less, 20% less, I think you have a few drops here or there, and all of a sudden that 100-yard game he had last week becomes 60 or something. So I like him, but that worried me. And then non-homering, Tyler Eifert when healthy is really good. He didn't really play much the first game. He had 6 targets and a TD last week, but the number 2, who also had 4 targets and is a lot cheaper. So my take on this is play a little bit of Goliski here, and I also think that Eifert's price is too high. Therefore, he'll be under-owned. So I think doubling the field in usage, hoping for a 6-catch, 60 yards and a touchdown, that you need him to win. So I don't say captain Eifert, but I think he's overpriced, and sometimes that's a good thing. If you like in baseball, you take overpriced stacks. Everyone wants the value, and they become lower owned. So I'm going to medium use both of the tight ends personally, and the may sprinkle in James. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I definitely think Goliski has a higher upside.
For sure.
But like you talked about with Eifert being, I would envision for that reason him being low owned. So ownership is something you always want to look at too. And if somebody's not as high owned, you can really pass the field rapidly if you own them at a lower rate. Snap rate really is just so important. We talk about minutes in basketball. Snap rate in football. That Bengals game, Uzoma went down. Nobody expected Drew Sample to start getting targets, but all of a sudden Joe Burrow started throwing the ball to Drew Sample because he was on the field. So I would mix in some O'Shaughnessy too. I would probably maybe even have medium usage for him. The other guys on the bottom of the list, not so much. And I agree with your take on Eifert. I think that it would be a smart, under the radar thing to do to use him a little bit above, the chalk ownership.
So Jacksonville, I believe, is towards the bottom. Granted, it's only 2 weeks. Towards the bottom of the league in tight ends. Would you captain Goliski at all?
I mean, I think it depends on how many entries you're playing. I mean, Goliski's a talent. I mean, he has the potential to go for a big game, but then it makes you nervous that he's not always on the field. Yeah, I mean, I think he wouldn't be my first choice, but if you're playing a lot of entries, I mean, I think he has the potential to blow up. So I would mix him in there.
So now, we're only going to have Coach Baab on here for the game breakdown. When I get into the optimizer, he's going to jump off and take a work meeting. So we've got about 5 minutes left with some of Coach Baab's takes, and then I'm going to show you our optimizer. So before we get into a few other things. You have any? I mean, Fitzpatrick's definitely known as a gunslinger, and I guess we don't know as much as Minshew, but I would say he's in the same build, although he doesn't have the interception numbers that Fitzmagic has. What's your take on kickers and defense?
Kickers and defense. Well, like I said, I lean Jaguars in the game. Fitzpatrick is, I mean, he's Fitzmagic. He can be magical. He can also throw a bunch of interceptions as well. I would look to maybe captain that Jaguars defense some. I mean, defenses are generally lower priced, and that can save you money to start playing the chalk, start playing 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. In terms of kickers, I mean, kickers are normally not very high upside. I would stay away from the kickers, but I'm going to mix in that Jaguars defense.
So you in a Kansas City shootout game or something, sometimes I call kickers the cheat code, because if it's going to be 48 to, but I think this game could shoot out, but I also think it's a very good chance it goes up and down the field with not as much scoring. And Fitzpatrick goes down, throws a pick. Minshew comes back, somebody fumbles. I think their defenses get better in the red zones. And so I don't necessarily like this for a 40-40 game. I think it. So I am actually. We don't disagree much this week. I think another possible strategy is, captain a D and load up. I think both these quarterbacks can be a little sloppy. I mean, we don't have fumble numbers on Robinson or Gaskins really, but obviously they're not well-known studs. So you wouldn't surprise me. Neither defense is that great to see a kick return touchdown. Because the coverages aren't good. To see a defensive touchdown. I mean, you don't need a shutout. If you get a defensive touchdown, 2 or 3 sacks, or an INT and a couple sacks, and you hit all the other touchdowns, that's one of the strategies I'm considering as well. So, I agree. I don't like the kickers as much, although the only validity of that is I do think it's possible that they move the ball and can't get in the end zone, therefore the kickers should get some points. But you can't play everybody. You got to take a stand somewhere. So I kind of I'm with you on that. So now, last time I was wrong in predicting. Before I go through here, and I'm going to show folks the optimizer. Let's let you here, before we optimize it, let's start with we'll let Coach Baab put in his first a few plays and then give a game prediction before we let him jump off here. So if you're starting your lineup here, like you're hand building it, who you putting? I'm putting you on the spot here. Who you putting in captain?
So I mean, I know we just recently talked about it. I mean, I think Isaiah Ford, like you were saying, the number 3 receivers have kind of established themselves. I might look to captain either Isaiah. Yeah, why don't we captain Isaiah Ford?
All right, and then let's put in 2 or 3 of the flexes. And then we'll. So if you're hand building here, you wouldn't put it both quarterbacks, running backs. Where are you starting next?
Why don't we see how it looks if we put both the top quarterbacks in, both the top running backs in, and then there will be 1 spot remaining. And sometimes this is good just to kind of you get a little feel for what the money's like. It's a lot like Coach S. He'll optimize, but he ends up hand building everything. Sometimes I get lazy and run out of time, and I'll just optimize. But most of the time, I hand build everything as well. So yeah, it's good to just kind of play around and see what the money looks like. So yeah, if we've got all those guys in there.
Let's see, that's about 20, and it's 28 and about 11. Yeah, that would fit. We could optimize that and get another player in. So I know you have a 9:30 meeting. I'm going to show the folks some of the tricks on the optimizer and finish up my strategy here the last 10 minutes. What's your prediction of score?
We're going to go. We'll go Jaguars 23 and the Dolphins 16. I think it. Like I said, I like the Jaguars, and we'll see where the chips fall. But yeah, good being on with you, Coach S, and bring the folks home with the optimizer.
All right, y'all. Good luck at your meeting. We'll talk here again next week.
All right.
All right. So now we've got Coach Baab off. Now we're going to go ahead here and he did have a little misconstrued in terms of hand building. I obviously don't hand build every single lineup I have. So one of the things here and purposes of these shows are to show you how to use the optimizer and to get people to be able to MMA and still have a job. And I said MMA. Oh my gosh, I'm ready for the UFC. So let's go ahead and clear out my locked picks here. I got to add them back to the pool, but unlock them. My apologies. All right. So one of the things that I keep hammering on is different builds for different types. So another thing I always say is make sure you change something in the optimizer. Now I want you to use our optimizer, but whatever optimizer you're using, I want you to make some changes because here I'll tell you why. So let's just take my projections here and I'm going to go ahead and put my own projections in. Now, if you don't have your own projections, think about your game script. Let's say you think it's going to be running heavy. Go in and change Robinson up a point or so. Go do something, because if you just use the dummy projections, our projections, SaberSim's projections, whatever optimizer you're using, you don't change anything, there's a very good likelihood of duplicating entries. Now, in a big contest, you're likely to dupe anyways, but neither here nor there. You don't want to chop a million ways. So first thing I want to do is see what it's going to spit out for my cash lineup. The unfortunate thing is I'm not supposed to show all 5 or 6 guys. So as you look at this, the settings are way different from cash than it would be for our GPP. Okay, so you could kind of see, the lineup, to be honest, but, I'll try to hide. So, strangely, the cash lineup has the same captain that Coach Baab called here, and unless we still have the players locked in, don't believe we do. No, we don't. That's strange. It literally, it missed Gaskins. But I said for a second I thought it had the exact players that Coach Baab had. But the cash lineup here, we're missing one, but that's what it's given me for the cash lineup. Now, since you're only building one lineup, you really shouldn't have to tinker these exposures. But let's just say you don't like one of the players. This is where you come in here and you say I want a max exposure of Robinson to be 0. System automatically changes to another player. You can see all the players here. Okay, so now let's go through here and let's just say, where I agree with Coach Baab a lot is the millie makers of these large contests, the likelihood of winning is lower. You'll drain your bankroll a lot, so if you don't have a large bankroll, or if you want to spread out and keep it, I recommend playing some contests that are not as top heavy. So let's just say, for my bankroll, I'm going to play all 3 of the $444 100-person 3 max. So I have to build different for that. So if you come in here and you see these settings here, I'm going to move this over to GPP again. I said it's a 3 max, and it was 100-person, so 11 to 100. As you see, these sliders have changed. the correlation, ownership fade's not as nearly as high as it would be for a big one. Smart diversity is a 6. So when I go ahead and build my lineup pool, it's going to go ahead and it's going to give me, and again, I've accidentally showed a lineup. This is difficult to move the box always, but it is going to show me, and it's, we've got to turn my face off here. All right, there we go. All right, it's putting in, Ford and 1, Captain Robinson and 1, and Fitzpatrick and 1. So let's just say I don't want to captain a quarterback. So I'm going to take Fitzpatrick down to 0 exposure. It's now going to give me Devontae Parker. Okay, we go back over and remember, one of the scripts I had was a lower wide receiver. Let's say I want to stick with that script for all 3 lineups. Now, I think that's more of a higher GPP. So as I'm thinking this process out, I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I like that necessarily for, the 3 entry max. But then on, second hand, if I hit all the other touchdowns, now I'm thinking in my head, I'm talking myself back into it. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to, let's find I want one of, Thompson. So if I put any number in here, it needs to build more lineups. And I said Thompson, I meant Connolly. Okay, this is so this is important here, just due to the fact that I have had to hit 3 times, 4 times to build more lineups. So that means generally that the optimizer's telling me this is not a good lineup for that contest. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to X out this entire build. And I'm going to start again because at some point, a computer's smarter than I am. So if I couldn't get a lineup that had, Connolly at captain in the pool of lineups that the optimizer built for that particular contest, it's probably not a very, logical play. So I'm going to go back in there. I'm going to, build my pool again. So I still kind of like the strategy of, so now this time, it's putting Ford and captain all 3 times. Now, do I want to, roll the dice with, one player? Or do I want to spread it out? I am a gambling man, and if I hit my stuff, I like to win, and I'm comfortable. I believe in 100-person contests. There are definitely ways you could take a 0 at captain and still place the money. So I'm gonna roll with it. I'm not saying this is exactly what I'm gonna play, but for the purpose of this optimizer, this podcast, let's tinker the flexes. So I like both quarterbacks in 100%. I don't necessarily want Parker in 100, so I'm going to move that down to 67. There we go. All right, now I'll show you a little bit of one of the lineups. And it would put Ford, both quarterbacks, Parker, Williams, and another person. This is a very Miami heavy lineup. Let's say I like these 3 lineups. Here's what I would do. I would download them. You can't see that. They popped up here in a spreadsheet. then what you would do is you would just copy and paste them. It's showing the wrong spreadsheet. You would copy and paste them into your DraftKings spreadsheet and then upload them back in there. Now, before I go, the next thing I want to show you is their difference here is, let's say you're going to enter 150 max, the large GPP. There's 170,000 people. You got to set this to over 50. Look at how the ownership fade, and this box is killing me. The ownership fade changed tremendously. It went up a lot more. It's thinking here. So now what I normally would do here, though, is I probably would have 2 game strategies, and I would optimize a few different times, based on the strategy, and then collate the lineups together to make sure there's no dupes. But for the sake of this, let's say for this one, let's see what it spit out. So it's giving me Preston Williams, which I don't necessarily personally like at the captain as much, and everything else. It's giving me some fairly spread out exposures, which for 150 lineups, I would agree with that. I personally like Conley a little bit more, so let's go ahead and put 7% in there. You see for this being a top heavy tournament with so many lineups, it changed immediately. When we were doing a smaller field, it was telling me don't play Conley, don't play Conley, don't play Conley, because I had to keep increasing my lineup pool. And then you can go through your flex, change the exposures here, and then download your lineup pool. So one of the biggest things that I would say here is, and the point of these videos is have a thought process. Don't just go into an optimizer, push a button. Okay? Because that will lead you to a lot of duplicates, a lot of the same lineups, a lot of even one of the lineups that we showed last time didn't necessarily have the correct correlations. So even if when you optimize, you take these lineups into your spreadsheet, you need to look at them. You need to go through and see if they make sense. You need to make sure your game script it fits that. So I recommend coming up with your own system. Every time there's a slate or a contest that you're entering, think about how many people do I have to beat? Is it a winner take all type contest where like the 300K up top, or is it something that is 20K to first, 10 to second? A little more spread out prizes, and come up with a strategy based on that contest. Like yesterday, if you look at, I wonder if it'll let me pull up yesterday. If I go backwards, I think it will. Look at all these builds I had for the MLB. Every single contest I enter gets its own build, and I think about it, like I don't usually eat chalk. So the only time I let Philly stacks in were those low dollar, high number of entry contests. I actually won $5,000 on the $8 one, but in my $700 lineups, I played 4 of them. I lost all of them because I didn't eat the chalk. But that was just my own particular style and my own game plan. But point I'm saying is every single one of these builds has a different strategy. So it's not a one build fits all. And I think a lot of optimizers, that's what makes our optimizer one of the best on the market is you can't switch it per build. You put in projections, put in some rules, push a button. Well, we're not smarter than computers. You have to build differently for a 3 max 100-person contest than you would 170,000 people contest. So, that's my take, and that, I'll leave you with that. Good luck today. I will call Fitzmagic win. Dolphins over Jaguars in a shocker. And Isaiah Ford gets a touchdown, as well as Conley gets into the end zone. All right, everyone have a good Thursday. Happy lineup building, and have a good day.